You're listening to the TWOBUCKS podcast, the podcast for outdoor entrepreneurs.
Little by little, I was getting the sense of my time isn't my time.
Just kept feeling this pull to the outdoors and wanting to do something in the outdoor space.
Welcome back to another TWOBUCKS podcast. I'm your host, Brian Krebs, and today I've got my good buddy Kent Boucher on the pod. And Kent and I met up it's probably closer to a couple months ago now.
I know.
It's been a minute, but we were in the same state. Well, more like I came to Kent's home state to do some work in my day job, and we had the opportunity to meet up one evening for what is it? The best tenderloin in Iowa is what it's called.
They hold that title, I guess. Goldie's over in Prairie City, Iowa. It was a good meeting spot. That's the first time I ever been there. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was delicious. It's like it's a diner from almost like another century in a town from another century in a way. It was a cool spot.
It's a middle of nowhere diner in a middle of nowhere town.
Well, it's actually like Goldie's ice cream shop. So when you sent me the link, I'm like, okay, let's go get the best tenderloin in Iowa. And I'm like, hey, I'm down. I don't even looking back, I didn't even know what a pork tenderloin was apparently.
Yeah.
And you just said tenderloin, so I jumped to beef tenderloin, and I was like, that sounds delicious. But then you sent me Goldie's ice cream shop, and I'm like, we're getting the best tenderloin in Iowa from Dairy Queen, like a local Dairy Queen. What is this?
I was feeling a little nervous too. I was like looking at their pictures with their Google, their Google posting for their business to make sure it was actually a restaurant. Do I see people eating inside at tables? Because I think it was a rainy day too, wasn't it? It wasn't like we could eat outside. Yeah, it was a little bit of
weather coming through. It was delicious. Great meal.
Oh yeah. I
think we ate in like 10 minutes and then talked for 2 hours.
Yeah, it was great. That was a iron sharpening iron kind of conversation. I immediately, as soon as I left, a guy that I need to really introduce you to, a good friend of mine, great business mind in the outdoor space, Alex Gruen of East West Hunts. I called him and was like, dude, I just had great conversation with Brian Krebs from the TWOBUCKS podcast and the Western Rookie podcast. And we talked for like 35 minutes on the phone, just about, stuff we want to incorporate into our companies. And I learned a ton from you, basically is what I'm saying here, Brian.
Well, I feel like the opposite is true. I feel like I learned a ton from you from that meeting. And we should have had the podcast board there because it's going to be hard to replicate what we talked about in the moment. And I think that's just part of the magic. I should really get, talking about things to do to improve, especially for podcasters, to improve the business. One of the things that I would really like to get is a pod track, a Zoom pod track P4. Just a little portable thing, and like have a set of these. And so it's so easy to throw them in the truck anytime you're going anywhere. I got the big road board and it's awesome. I love it. Not the easiest thing. It's wired to 110. We have done podcasts in the road with it. And it's actually nice because the guys in the back seat can hear just as good as if, we're 2 states apart and you can hear. And that's cool on a road trip when you got like 4 guys on a hunting trip because no one can ever hear in the back seat. But the Zoom pod track's battery powered. It's a super easy, throw it out in camp. And that would have been a good opportunity to have it. We should have done that. Yeah, if we both had 2 sets of AirPods and just did like a voice recording on like any phone now can record a podcast, and you would get I think the conversation is the important part that we had, not the quality, not the audio experience, if you will. A lot of people aren't looking for that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, even then, I probably not. You know, if you're just starting out, yeah, you're getting your buddies from your hometown, and it might be hard to get them. Yeah, that would be like what that would be. You know, there's all kinds of different signs. People are like, oh, we made it. You know, like, you know, first sponsor is a big milestone. Like when you get that first sponsor, it's like, man, I made it. When people are like, I'll hop on a plane and come to your podcast, that's, you know, like Meat Eater, Rogan, Newberg, then you're like, yeah, I made it. Like people, I'm not paying for them to come, or I'm not going to them anymore. They're coming to me on their own budget because of the impact and the power that the show has. That would be one sign where you're like, I made it, you know? Yeah. 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 The conversation that you and I had, um, man, I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but we met on my way home from work. And so we had a offsite and I was running late, and then, you know, it actually worked out good because you had a busy day at work and planting season. And so we didn't meet for dinner until, what was it? 5:45, 6 o'clock maybe. And then we talked for a while, and then I hit the road and I had like a 4.5 hour drive home. And so I couldn't do anything about what we talked about. Like I couldn't get on my website and update anything. I couldn't make any deals, but all I had was 4 hours of some background music and just thinking about what we talked about. And I was just, you know, I'm like, I need to figure out a way to put a date on the calendar and have like a thing that occurs, where people like you and I and everyone that's got the same mindset comes together for like a weekend or a 3-day thing. I feel like we'd probably want to do it around a hunting thing, right? Because that's what we all love. But like, yeah, we're here to hunt, but we're here to be together and like bounce ideas off each other. And if someone shoots something, great. But it's like, you know what I mean? Like there's hunting trips that you go on and you're like, do not distract me, like no bonfires. It's straight to bed, like, you know, food, shower, bed, repeat. I feel like the opposite. It's like, let's not hunt this afternoon. Like, we got a good conversation going, like that kind of thing. And I know people want to hunt, they can hunt, but like an open, maybe not quite open invite, but, you know, like a relatively open group of all of the people that are like, even if you're not a podcaster, but you're a business owner or you're an entrepreneur in the outdoor space, and just like find a place that can accommodate everyone, that we can all get a tag or get, you know, whatever it is, we can get a license, we can have opportunity, public land probably, unless, you know, someone out there has like a 20,000 acre private, you know what I mean? Yeah, and just meet and talk about all these ideas and brainstorm and collaborate. And because I feel like that's where I said I don't know if it was good or bad, because like I was so energized after our conversation. If I would have been at my desk, you know, I would have been flipping business ideas around and putting stuff up on the website and doing all kinds of stuff. And it's hard to replicate that energy. There's like not a button for that kind of energy. You know, there's dedication, and there's things like you can grind, and you can, you know, I got a deadline, I got to do this. That's different than when you're like, man, I just want to get at I just want to get at this. I got this idea burning that I just got it. It's like, it's too hot to hold. I can't hold on to it. I got to do it. I got to put it out there.
Totally. I totally understand what you're saying there. Um, the I think that goes back to what I was saying. It was an iron sharpening iron conversation.
Yeah.
You know, it's like one of those things where you feel yourself getting better, and you can't even necessarily. I mean, obviously there was a few things we talked about that were action items that kind of what you're referencing, you want to get going on right away. But,
Mm-hmm.
but also there was just some things that my wife and I were just talking about this with another situation, literally minutes before we started this podcast. You ever hear the phrase, does it pass the eye test? Or, one that I've heard, Ranella say on Meat Eater, which I've repeated many times, is, he'll be like, whatever you just said, I don't know why it's wrong, but it's wrong. You know what I mean? And then there's the opposite of it. Whatever you just said right there, it's right. I don't know how it's right, but it's right.
Yeah.
And it's that unquantifiable data. You know, it's like it's purely qualitative, and you don't even know how it qualifies. But there's something in there that's like a true nugget, and you just got to dig around further, which is the advantage of having that 4-hour drive to listen to music and just mull it over and like really hone what you're making. But, you know, I felt like there was a lot of that came out of there too. And like you said, had we been able to record that conversation and go back and listen to it, we would have picked out even more, you know, but it was truly a, energizing conversation. I love the idea of putting together some kind of, you know, hunt camp or something. You know what we could do it around? We're both obsessed with shed hunting. Maybe we could, just do like a shed trip somewhere where it's low key. You can talk the whole time you're hunting, or, you know, looking, I guess, or pheasant hunt would work too.
I love that. I love both ideas. I love the shed hunt idea, maybe a little bit more because I actually spend more time shed hunting than pheasant hunting.
Yeah.
But it's in the spring. It's probably not as hard to get people, you know, calendars synced up.
Right.
So that's great. There's no time zone, like time limits. So
Yep.
like if we did a whitetail hunt in the rut, like everyone's going to want to be up early, spend all day in the stand, home late.
Yep.
And so with the conversation piece probably isn't going to be there as much, but a shed hunt, it's like, well, we don't really have to get up before dark.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
before
You're
light.
talking the whole time. Yeah.
And we, you know, like you walk all day, people are probably ready to go back for about supper. And then like, there's no reason not to have a bonfire and stay up till midnight,
right.
you know,
That's
talking
right.
to each other, because there's no way to get up. So I really like that idea. Do it someplace cool. We could do a traveling shed hunt every year. So like, you know, this year it's in North Dakota, this year it's in Minnesota, this year it's in Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado, Montana, wherever, you know, just kind of do it. And then it can be like truly open-ended.
Yeah, we're doing that. It's going to be a $2 first gen shed camp.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. It'd probably be a lot cooler if I was better known. but but yeah, no, once, you know, one day we will be better known. Yeah, that'd be so cool to do that. We kind of did a version of that. Now that you bring it up, me and Dan Matthews from the Nomadic Outdoorsman did a shed trip to New Mexico, and it was all about shed hunting. There was no like, hey, let's do this business, like, you know, brain sync, you know, session mastermind group. It was just the shed hunting, but we obviously talked all about, you know, podcasting and growth and what are you doing? What am I doing? Because one of the things that like we talked about, for example, like how to approach companies and brands that you're excited to work with in a way that sets you up for success more. And just we kind of went back and forth, like, well, what are you doing? What am I doing? And every brand that I work with, I actually sought them out because I wanted to work with them. I don't typically, I'm not opposed to working, like a new brand comes out and says, hey, we love what you're doing, we think would be a good fit. I just had to, you know, vet the product a little bit or the service and make sure it's a good fit, you know, for me and what I want to do. But when you reach out to some of these brands that you want to work with, I'm not always successful. And so what is it going to be to like, what does it look like when you know, what are they going to want to see? What can you do to polish the edges a little bit on your proposal or your pitch? And, you know, I've coming up with all kinds of like graphics, like a media kit is a common, you know, term when we're doing what we're doing with creators, whether you're a social media influencer, a podcaster, you know. And so you're putting like how many touch points you get, but then like quality of touch points, like engagement rates, reach, not just impressions, putting stuff on there. And then, but really thinking through, I think a big part of it is really how can you help them further their mission, right? Not just like, here's how good I am and here's how many views I have, but when I'll talk about with GoHunt, because it's released now. We already finished most of the first year's work. I said, hey, you guys are a perfect fit for the Western Rookie. I feel like the Western Rookie is a perfect fit for you. Both of us are in the business of helping other people understand how to hunt the West and giving them all the tools there are. And I think it'd be really cool to do a bonus series, presented by GoHunt before every application, that we can talk about, like, hey, 2 weeks from now, Wyoming elk is coming up, January 31st for non-residents. Here's what we're seeing in Wyoming, snowpack, and here's how you apply and all this stuff. And they loved it because it helps them further their mission. Versus you just, hey, I want to get sponsored by, you guys. Here's how many views I get. Yeah. Right. Well, that's a big one, that I have found, like, communicating often really goes a long ways. And I just try to maintain that communication, not to the point where I'm, excessive and bugging them, but just reaching out, asking how I can help. It actually turned out really great. One of the companies I work with reached out how they were doing on a recent product launch and super excited about it. How's it been going? I kind of helped with some creative work on the beginning of it to help, with the launch. And then they said, hey, great. I was actually going to reach out to you and have you just give some feedback on this. Really like the feedback you gave in the past. And the project they were working on next had nothing to do with me. And I'm just like, that looks awesome. It looks great. One thing I saw, what about this? And they're like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And then they're like, yeah, we got this picture for another product. We're kind of doing like this 3-way partnership. But they switched up their other product. And for this year, and I'm like, well, hey, I'm actually an affiliate of that, other company. And I did a photo shoot for them last year. What was the one they went with this year? I might have some content for you. And it turns out I did. And so I sent them some pictures and they were able to use those. I'm like, well, that's adding value that you don't put in a contract or a proposal. And so stuff like that, anyway, I always try to help out for sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
We hope not. We hope $2 just keeps going on until into your retirement someday, and we hope First Gen Hunter keeps going on into my retirement someday. But there's a good chance that at some point, things will shift and change, and but we'll still be here, right? Even if our brands aren't, and I think it's just always important to like have that reflection of after every major project you do, whether it's like our channels are, or maybe going and getting extra grad credits or whatever. How am I more marketable on the other side of this than I was before I did it? And part of it is just enjoying learning new things too. I used to be a teacher, and I wish I had done this, but I used to think, and this is a misconception about teachers. Teachers do not get paid during the summer, as far as they're not like logging new hours. Yes, you're receiving paychecks,
Yeah.
but it's 9 months of employment.
Right.
Paychecks
You get the
stretched
choice,
out.
right? Like, do you want your checks over 9 months or do you want them over 12 months? And
Yeah,
a
I
lot
think
of people pick the 12 so you they can budget.
Right, exactly. So,
Yeah.
but that being said, you still have money coming in, so it's not, it's not near as stressful, like you said, for budgeting and so forth. And I wish, what I used to think, what I should do every summer is I should go to like a new trade, go to a welding shop and be like, hey, I just want to learn how to weld. I can work for free for 20 hours a week, or if you want to pay me minimum wage, I'll come in here for 40 hours a week, and I want to learn how to weld this summer. And then the next summer you go to a mechanic shop. Hey, I just want to learn to work on cars better. But the idea is always scheming of ways to make yourself more marketable and more equipped to be useful. And I think that when I started this podcast, I had no business sense yet, coming from a biology background, but I knew that by doing it, I was definitely stretching myself, for one, but I was also, it was going to pay off somehow. And it has, for sure,
Yeah, I think a big part of it, just, pays off recreationally too, right? Like, it's an opportunity for us to be creative and not like recreation usually is like, oh yeah, out in the boat in the water skis and, jet skis. And it's like, well, no, it's like recreating a part of ourselves and kind of like rejuvenating,
Yeah, definitely.
if you're that person. Not everyone is, but like I build up energy by doing this. It doesn't take energy out of me.
Yeah.
And I think there's, if that's the right fit, I think it matters like what the fit is. If you've got the right fit, that can be like a recreative process or a project. And so you get a little bit of that out of it. And then, you get the relationships, like Eric Clark says on the Hook-Aced Hunter, there is no return on a relationship. It's infinite. Right.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
So, you can, that's a huge part of it. And then, now we're kind of, both getting to the point where like there's starting to be some monthly flow of dollars, and not that it's like retiring either one of us, but it's nice because, the way I view it anyway, and I don't want to speak for you, but it gives me an opportunity to think through like, okay, I got, let's just say it's $100. I got $100 in. How can I take this $100 because I have a day job and we've got a budget and we're good? How can I take this $100 and instead of needing it to buy bread, how can I put it back into the podcast and make an improvement somewhere? And that's what I'm really focusing on right now. I think the next big one is I'm going to be redoing my podcast studio. I want to do, I still have to use this room and this space. But I don't want to be like at my desk on a webcam. I'm looking for a different look, and so I'm going to kind of restructure it a little bit, get a nicer quality camera, maybe have more of like a table look to it, have a better scenario or a better environment to have in studio guests, and then through that do a lot better job with the video aspect, putting shorts up, redistributing content, getting those views up. Because it's just been so busy lately, and I never really loved the way the video turned out, that I just, it fell off. And so I want to get back on that, and really take that experience, the video experience, to the next level, and hopefully build up the podcast through that. So like that's one of the things I'm like trying to. And now you don't have to be like, oh, how am I going to budget this out? And, is this going to come out of the vacation budget, or is it going to come out of the, yeah. Oh yeah. You're telling us, all the wives that are listening to this are like, oh yeah, we know. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you telling me I just brought an elk home? Yeah. Hmm. Right. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the return on a relationship is infinite. And I agree. Yeah, some of that, we had a partnership, or we have a partnership with Steelhead Outdoors. We did a product swap. I think that's a very attractable, or not attractable, but attractive way, on the other side of the conversation, right? The brand. When you say, "Hey, I want to work together," write me a check for 5 grand or 2 grand or even, $500. They're like, well, typically companies, if they get to a certain size, that you have to go through a couple hoops to write a cash, like a check, right? Or give out cash, right? You got to go to accounting, you got to get a PO, you got to get approvals. A lot of times, like people in management, marketing managers, um, sometimes they have a brand affiliate manager or a brand manager. They have a discretionary budget for this exact thing to swap product. And so it can be a lot more attractive for them if you're like, "Hey, I want to work together. I've been using your products. Here's a way that I could see us working together. Here's a proposal. I'm open to ideas if you want to build on this. But we could do a product swap, right, to start out with." And one of my favorite ones, we're working with Maverick as well as Steelhead, but we just bought a brand new farm. We told you about this, 40 acres that we had to basically, it was a from scratch farm. I mean, there was not much work to begin, and it was all willows. There's some oak, a lot of lower land, like brush jungle. And so we had to get ladder stands and trail cameras, and then we got this partnership with Maverick, and it's changed everything, because we've done all product swap and a little bit of affiliate marketing. But yeah, a panel blind to get, those things they're, obviously they're a huge value when you have them, but they're not fun when you have to pay for them the first time, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, they actually told me, I've had multiple companies tell me legally you have to say it's recommended to have 2 people, but we don't mind, wink, wink, if you brag that you did it yourself. Yeah. Yeah. No, they were like, our lawyers told us we need to tell you to say 2 people, but if you want to brag that you didn't follow the directions, we actually prefer that. And so, like with Steelhead, like the door, it's heavy. It probably weighs 150 pounds, but I'm a bigger guy, and so I carried it myself. But if you had a 2-wheel cart or 2 people, it'd be no issue at all. Or like the Maverick just released, Maverick Hunting Blinds just released this awesome 10-foot platform, all steel. It's 8 feet by, it's just shy of 8 feet by 8 feet. It's got a sweet landing pad. I should send you a picture of it because you'd really appreciate it. But the box has 4 people, and I did it by myself. Well, I'm an engineer, you know that.
That's
so
right,
I'm
yeah.
always thinking like, hey man, if we did this and this, I bet I could do that by myself. Like I just built a cultipacker for food
Nice.
plots, and
Nice.
it went awesome. But pouring cement is like a little chaotic because once you start, you can't stop. It's like
Right,
having a
yep.
baby. That's what I realized at the end of it. It's like, holy crap, pouring cement is like having a child. Like you did all this research ahead of time and you thought you had a plan and you knew all the variables and what could happen. And you're like, all right, let's do it. And then it happens and you're like, holy shit, I didn't know a thing.
That's
But
right.
now
There's
you
no
can't
putting it
stop. You're
back.
in
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Once
you
you're
can't
in
put it back in the bottle. It's like
Yeah.
putting toothpaste back into the tube. It just doesn't work. And
You ever
and
see
I was
those?
so
You ever see those videos where it'll be like at a construction site and they'll be they'll be testing the limits on what you can do with concrete, and they'll build up all this framing or something like that,
and then it all falls apart.
Yeah, then it all falls apart, and then this just like looks like a lava flow of concrete going across this person's yard, and the people that are just staying there just looking at it. It's like, there's literally nothing we can do. We can't like go scoop it up with a machine.
No,
because then it's going to be
at that point. It's better to let it dry.
Yep.
That's what I kind of felt like. I was successful overall, but I had like 3 hours of pure anxiety and chaos. Because what I was doing was I was pouring it. I had a culvert, and I needed to get the concrete into the culvert. So I put the concrete mixer on my pallet forks of my tractor, and then raised that up in the air and mixed it, and then poured it like off of that, and like waterfalled it into my. But
That's
the concrete
awesome.
mixer's spinning, so it's when the cement
Yep.
comes out, it's kind of thrown off to the side. And I
Yep.
missed the first time, but I'm up in the air and I can't, I'm by myself, my wife is working, and I don't know. I always assume I did, if I need to figure out a way to do everything by myself. I'm not great at asking for help. And, but yeah, no, cultipacker work, man, 48 hours. We had germination in our food plots.
Wow. That's great.
We had a great rain. I actually was headed to the gym, looked at the sky. I was like, ooh, because I was going to seed after the gym. And I'm like, nope, sorry, babe. Like you're on your own for this workout. I got to go home and plant the food plots.
Yep.
Got it in. 1/2-inch rain after that.
Oh, perfect.
Cultipacked it in though. Domain outdoor seed, man. It was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like day 4 and it's like green now.
Wow. That's great. That's really great.
So, yeah, cultipackers are awesome. Go build one.
Yeah.
But yeah, another one of those examples of like learning a new skill.
Oh,
I was going to mention this when you were talking about like doing summer jobs. I'm like, I feel like I do that just because I refuse to pay anyone else.
Yeah.
So I have to learn. Like I had to put a new starter in my truck because that went down. But these new trucks, it's not super obvious what's not working. I just had a code and it said like C alternator. And then, I had to buy a code reader and went through all the diagnostics and figured out, like, I kind of rolled the dice. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's the starter, but I don't know for certain.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't turn. Like, nothing happens. It's like, you can't get any info.
Yeah.
A dead battery slowly cranks, or a starter in the old trucks would just click, right? Like, it would just, nothing. So I fixed that. I build everything myself because I don't like paying for that. We had our
Yep.
well break. I fixed our well because I didn't want to hire an electrician and a plumber and it's just everything.
Yeah, man.
So I'm just over here. I feel like now I know how to pour cement a little bit. I'm not going to, say I can. Probably I bought a $50 welder off Facebook Marketplace and taught myself how to weld. I did a little bit. Obviously we had a shop class, but yeah, it's like I'm too cheap to go to a like metal shop and order something. No, that's thousands of dollars. So okay. Oh yeah. I tell myself that exact same thing. Like oh my, I don't want to put anyone down. There's a lot of smart cookies out there, but if I'm an electrical engineer. I design electronics for off-road vehicles. So if I can't fix my own truck, like who says 17-year-old Timmy doing his first job is going to be able to fix it any better than I can? Now, if I get, Lloyd that's been there for 40 years, yeah, he probably can fix it a lot better than I can. But I'm just saying, if they can train the new guy how to fix it, I feel like YouTube can train me. Yeah. 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 Oof. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And all 5 parts that are on the engine. Yeah. 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 I do my own brakes, but I use a lot of brake cleaner when I'm done. Yeah. Um, I use brake cleaner for everything in the shop. Oh, that looks dirty. I bet brake cleaner will clean it off. Just spray that stuff on there. Yeah, it sure did. Um, yeah. No, and that's honestly the same sentiment to why I started $2 originally was when I started my product business, Bull Elk Beard Oil. Everything was new. Everything was intimidating. How do I collect sales tax? How do I pay income taxes? Do I need an LLC? Do I need, how do I build a website? How am I going to figure out where the orders go and print labels? And then once I did it all, you realize, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then I was like, I wonder how many people want us to do something and they have an idea and they're just like, man, but I've never started a business. Like, I don't know how to start a business. And it's, be that resource for them to help, like you said, teach and learn new things. And now I'm to that next phase, we're talking about all the things we're kind of doing to grow the podcast. We talked about, how to approach sponsors and, you start making a little revenue and then what to do with that. And, I'm looking at marketing, trying to be my own marketer for the product business. Cause, I don't know if anyone knows this, but engineers are great at math and science. They're not good at marketing and sales always. Like it doesn't always transfer. And so that's a big open question. And then there's so many things. And one of the things I really liked about what you're doing is you do a lot of articles. You write a lot. I mean, my website's there basically as a glorified link tree. You have like an actual website and you're writing blogs and you're putting those out there. Have you noticed when you did that, or as you've been consistently doing that, a difference in traction and reach and like a sense that it's really helping, the I kind of call it like a tractor. You can either have like 4-wheel drive on a tractor and that helps you go forward, or you can have a plow in the ground and that doesn't help you go forward. And I think a lot of things that sometimes we think are 4-wheel drive really end up being plows, right? Time sucks. And so what have you thought, like, obviously you're doing it. So I'm, kind of baited you. I know it's working, but kind of talk to what you've seen with like all the stuff you're doing on the website and the articles and this, speaking engagements is another thing I want to get to after that. Mm-hmm. Oh, that sounds scary. I don't know if I want to do that on myself.
It is a little scary, but it is good to do. And I don't know why this is the case. I think I probably had some good teachers. I mean, I know I did that helped. My 5th grade teacher, I know it sounds crazy that it was that long ago, but he was like borderline crazy person, but he was awesome. He was, he used to tell us how he'd been shocked back to life 3 different times. He was this old, battle axe teacher who he loved fishing, he did a little hunting. And he used to keep his cigs right on his desk. We'd see him like out at recess. He'd be out lighting up in the, the edge of the schoolyard and stuff like that. And he was awesome, man. He just like connected with kids like myself. Well, we just liked him. And
Right.
He was my language arts teacher then. And I remember my parents just being blown away at how well I scored on the standardized testing that year for like my reading and language arts. And a lot of that I think came from how he taught us how to write, pick anything you're interested in. Tell me the story.
Yeah. Mhm. Right. Wow. Yeah.
I definitely didn't try to exercise that much growing up, but when it came then to when I got interested in producing hunting content, it's like, naturally I want to I want to explore this writing thing more because I think I can do it. I as a teacher, obviously you have to have some ability to communicate. You get
Yeah.
paid to talk for a living basically as a teacher. And so I was like, you know what, I think I can do this. And I just started out. I tried at first. I tried writing a book. I was like, I'm going to start on a book, and I'm going to call that book First Gen Hunter, because it's going to be about how my journey of learning to hunt and everything like that. And I think I got like 10 pages in, and I just wanted to see how it was going. So I gave it to my.
Yeah. 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 Hmm. Yeah.
I'd put like Winnie the Pooh on for my kids, and I'd go record a 2-hour podcast with somebody, and no problem. Well, baby number 3 comes along, can't do that anymore. She despises,
Right.
television at that time, essentially. She just wants to be like around you. So that like really cramped down on what I could do. And it was hard enough just to get the podcast out a lot of times. And so the website really became a back seat thing, but it was still there. I always knew, don't give up on it. Don't lose your domain. Don't let your site go down. Just pay the fees to keep it going and update it when you can. So I kept it going, and as she got older and a little bit easier to manage, I was like, you know what, I need to get back on the website and start pushing things on there. I need to, I'd already picked up a bunch of affiliate partners that I basically just would attach to the podcast, and I wasn't really leveraging my website with them. And I would also do, posts on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, like, hey, you should go check out this item right now. Here's a link to use. And, that worked a little bit. I definitely sold some stuff that way, or even just like, if you had a friend that you knew was going on a hunting trip, be like, hey, look, here's what I use and I love it, and I got it from this site right here. Like really, really, ground level marketing like that. But the moment when it like clicked is when I started to notice a couple of my articles that I wrote years ago on my website, back when I was first starting, really, were just getting so much traffic. And I was like, man, that somebody must have shared this somewhere, or this is just performing well, for a Google rating. And sure enough, I like typed in like the keywords from my article title, and it's like, boom, first result in Google, not like typing in the whole title, just like the main subject items in that title. It's like, whoa, that's powerful right there. To be, I mean, it's hunting, so right away you're at 4% of the United States population, where it's not a huge group of people out there, right? But anytime you're the number one Google result on something, you got to leverage
information
that.
and details
and
at the bottom of the article.
So I started putting, adding my affiliate stuff to that, and once I did that, it was like, totally changed. And I should back up a little bit. The link, yep. Right. Or in the middle of it, it'd be like,
I see what you're saying.
So what I like to do is I'll have a big long article, and then in the middle of the article, I'll do a separate text box, different font colors.
To a Tupperware party. Yeah. Oh, back at 10 years ago, that was big. Like, let's meet up. Let's grab coffee. Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah. 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 I used to work for a forum company. Yeah, bowhunting.com on the forums. Yeah. Not it wasn't a big deal. I was yeah, Todd Graffs at Justin Czar. Yeah. Yeah, going digital way before it was cool. Yeah, but they're a search engine. They're not a that you search things and like, hey, has anyone done this before? And you find some guy that says, yeah, I did it 2 years ago. Here's the picture. Oh yeah, it does work. Right. When there's a when there's a forum out there that's literally got like square boxes, it all is one color, the pictures don't load and people still use them. Web developers. Yeah. Well, even $1. I mean, imagine the time. So I'm looking at your website right now, and there's 4 articles, and I got, so here's one, a shed, right? Well, you could spend all day to go get a good picture of a shed and maybe not find one. You could stage it, which you're probably not liking, or you pay $1 and do the AI imaging, go on with your article. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I see it. Yeah. 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 I say that about almost everything Eric Clark does. Oh man, I should be doing that too. And he has partners. I mean, I ask him, I'm personal friends with him. I text him questions like that all the time, and he goes, "Well, I have partners. Like, don't feel like you have to do everything I do because I'm not even doing all those things. My partners are." Yeah.
Time, but um, I think he does. If not his channel full time, he's working in the industry full time. I think through some other marketing
Yeah,
stuff
he
that
works
he
for
does.
Gunpowder as an outdoor marketing. He's in outdoor marketing is his day job, and then yeah, so he has a day job that really well aligns with what he's
Right,
doing as a side gig.
right, exactly. And so that and that's smart. That's good. I'm not criticizing that at all. But it's
Yeah, no,
important
it's
that
super
that
helpful.
if you're a John Deere, electrical engineer, your job, it takes your full attention during the day
Yeah,
to in a totally separate direction than where you're going to be going at night when you're burning the midnight oil on $2 and Western Rookies. That's it's and I think I'm preaching to the choir here. I know with talking
yeah,
with you, Brian, but
but for the listeners. Like, it's
right,
okay to be okay with where you're at.
yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
like it's kind of goes back to the yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I just try to make, just always looking at 1%. I mean, that's really where I set my bar at, like, what's one thing I can do 1% better today, this week, this month. I mean, like, I don't plan big things in October and November anymore. It just does not work to be like, oh, I'm going to launch a whole new show and I'm going to do all these new projects and no, like, I do this to hunt, and I got to remind myself often, the whole point of all this is to hunt and fish more at some point in the journey. Now, when you're starting up and building, maybe not so much, but the goal is maybe to be like my own version of a Randy Newberg or a Steve Ranella or any of these guys that, really are starting to do this full time. And even those guys, aren't full time hunting. They got their office days. And so I got to keep myself on checked a little bit. Yeah, they're not 29. Yeah. Yeah. Brian Call is probably the OG hunting podcaster. Kenyon was early, and Dan Johnson was there, and both of those guys are doing big things now. Yeah, but Mark Kenyon, he quit a big fancy job. I mean, everyone knows the story. He quit Google to do this with no momentum. I mean, he was like, "All right, day one, what should I do?" It wasn't like I'm doing it already. I'll just do a little bit more. It's already making money. If I do it full time, I'll make more money. No, it was like, hey, I got to figure this out. And so I'm just not willing to do that.
Different. Like they were not only brave enough to dive in, but they did it at a revolutionary time point. You know what I mean? They did it when nobody else was doing it. And that was so smart of them to do. And sometimes you can choose to do something when nobody else is doing it, and it just never takes off,
There's a reason why no one was doing it.
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
But that's, so what I'm saying is they're kind of the exception to the rule,
Right.
That it takes a long time to build a brand. There's a few other guys on YouTube who've achieved the same thing. Think of like, Chris B, he's a young guy. He's done a great job.
But his age probably isn't very well correlated to the number of hours that he's put into it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. He think of how many hours. I mean, he's essentially an archery expert, right? And he's
probably got 1 million hours of shooting his bow before he even thought about doing content. And now he added another 1 million hours of learning how to do content on top of that.
Yep.
And it's just like, some people, they get those 1 million hours, but it takes them until they're 65 and they've got their brand. Other people are like, no, this is all I'm going to do for the next 5 years. Yeah. Takes time. Yeah. Yeah, Lorenzo, and he had momentum in his career before he started Go Hunt. I mean, that wasn't his first venture out of college by any means, and he came from a family with good off means. I mean, he came from the Vegas Strip. Yeah, rocking and rolling. Yeah, 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 no kidding. If any of the listeners here have a ranch in Montana that they want a shed hunting buddy, I even have a trained shed dog. We'll package deal. We'll come out and find some bones together. That's an awesome connection. Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna come out with T-shirts that are like, "I've got sheds in the van," instead of. Yeah. Yeah.
And how he's gotten
Right.
into all the stuff he's doing with Meat Eater and everything, and he's like, he and Steve have been friends for a very long time. He was telling me, and he invited Steve out to go turkey hunting, and they never met in person. They just emailed back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, and Steve was like, really? When? And like that was like, there was a principle there, right? He doesn't know this guy. Never met him. I mean, yeah, he's emailed back and forth with him, but he's never met him or anything like that. But I think when life throws you an opportunity, you got to look to say yes. And I think a lot of people look for a reason to say no, but you got to look, you got to look for a reason to say yes, because look at what an awesome friendship that's been. I don't know Steve at all. Never met the guy. I really like listening to his podcast and stuff. I think he's helped the hunting community just as much as anyone has, if not more. And but I know Doug well. I've gone hunting with Doug, and
Mm-hmm.
I can tell like it's a great friendship for both of them. And
Yeah.
and because he was willing to find a way to say yes. And so it's like when this guy reached out to me and is like, hey, you want to come out here and shed hunt? It's like, I've talked with the guy a handful of times. That was back when Go Wild was still around. Unfortunately, Go Wild's, I don't know what the whole scoop is there, but the site is down for now.
Indefinite pause, I think, is what they.
Yes. Yep. That is how they said it.
Yeah.
But he had messaged me through Go Wild, and he liked to listen to the podcast, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to find a way to say yes. And man, what a great friendship came out of that. He's going to come hunt deer with me in Iowa sometime. I plan to go out there and hunt Merriam's with him in the spring sometime, and do plenty of shed hunting with him in the future, and maybe even do a deer hunt if he invites me in the future. And then another great friend to come out of this is my friend Alex Gruen. He reached out to me very early in the days of my podcast, just started talking, and it's like, man, this guy's really cool. And I really want to hunt out west, and I know nothing about it. And he's got a whole service for planning hunts for people and everything else. And we just started talking, and we swapped hunts. He's like, yeah, I'll plan a hunt for you. If I can come out and hunt Iowa sometime, sure. We can make that work. And through that, we've become great friends. And he's oftentimes a co-host on my podcast. He's really become one of my best friends. And we've done a bear hunt together now. We're going on an elk hunt together. And what it turned into is now he's one of the sponsors on my podcast, and he does all my hunt planning for me. And once again, total stranger reaches out, find a way to say yes. And those chances have been so rewarding, and,
Oh, yeah.
I was just talking with the guy who invited me out to Nebraska. Shout out to Nate today, and talking about, hanging out in the future and and next time we're going to get together and that kind of thing. So, I think that's part of running a successful.
Yeah, it really is. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I say yes every time. Um, do everything I can to make it work. Obviously, sometimes scheduling it takes a minute, but yeah, I mean, it really kind of goes to like that old saying, like "show me your network, and I'll show you your net worth." Or one I really like is you really are an average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And so when you're hanging out with people that are in the same, they're swimming the same direction, they're pulling the plow in the same direction, you're really elevating your own game by doing that. It's even, obviously you can't just always hang out with people that are way ahead of you in life, but when you get those opportunities, that's how you really jump up, like you said, learn new skills, and you just see things differently, because they've been there, they've done that they said, this is what I did, and you didn't even know you were going to have that problem next month, but they already solved it, and now you skipped it and you just kind of jumped ahead. And man, I think that's a big part of what we do, especially in the creator space, is what your network is. And always looking for new opportunities to meet people is, I think, a key part, like you said, in a successful brand and a business. Hmm. Yeah. Hey, we're doing a $300 project together, so add that to the total. Yeah. it really just comes back to what Eric Clark said, and like you alluded to it, he's a marketing genius. And his quote, there is no return, or there's an infinite return on a relationship. I mean, that's kind of what it all comes back to in the end when you're in this space. I mean, it all starts with a relationship at some point between brands, between people, and man, I think that's the best way to wrap up the podcast is on that note. Like, it really just comes back to, the return on a relationship. Shout out to Eric. He's a guru. He's achieving guru status. Oh, man, does he ever. That's another thing. I was like, man, I should do more of that. But then that's his thing, too. And I'm like, I don't want to, copy your thing. I want you to do your thing. So, yeah. 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 Maybe mine will be that level of humor, but t-shirts like I've got sheds with a van with an open door. And just and a full-grown adult just diving in head first. Oh, really? What the bait pile would be? Oh, man. So many good options. So many good options. So when I think of a bait pile, I think of something that you just can't stop eating, right? Like, I'm not going to pick steak. Like, I get a big steak, but then I'm full and I'm done. Ah, man. I think it would probably be something out of a potato. Like state fair, the county fair French fries. When you get them in the 32 ounce, the fresh cut 32 ounce cup, anything, man. Yeah, like loaded or just ketchup, salt, whatever. Yeah, I think that would be like county fair French fries would be where you'd be like, you'd catch me with the eyes up. Yeah, that's a good one. Oh yeah, yeah, those are good too. That's a good question. I'll have to come up with a question like that for the $2 podcast. I know Newberg always asks for marriage advice. Um, yeah, interesting. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. Great episode. We got to keep up on the shed hunting collaborator trip. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm in. I mean, I go on a shed trip every year, so that part's easy. I assume you're in. So we just got to get everyone else to get in. And maybe it's just you and I the first time. And yeah, everyone else is going to miss out. Everyone will jump in the van. I've got a couple options. I got a couple, but they're not centrally located. I've got a couple spots where I've found like 20 in a weekend on public. Yeah. Yeah, I always do. Awesome, Kent. Well, thank you for being here. We're going to put links to everything you've got going on, but to keep it simple, First Gen Hunter across all platforms is where you'll find Kent and all of his articles, sweet AI images. I like the one on the corn. I also noticed it's got 2 right hands. Yeah. Yeah, and like the world's best DeKalb variety with like 17 corn cobs per stock. Um, but yeah, no, First Gen Hunter. We'll put a link in the show notes for everyone to go check out your podcast, your website, the social media pages. I really appreciate you coming on, Kent. Yeah. Next time I'm in Iowa, we'll make it happen. We'll reserve a booth at the ice cream parlor for another tenderloin, and we'll bring the podcast boards. Yeah, we'll bring the podcast boards and everything. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you for being here once again, and thank you for listening, folks.